The hotel lobby smells of expensive coffee and vanilla from the freshly baked goods just delivered to the lobby bar. Iris enters through the revolving door, carefully holding it with her palm, feeling the glass slide beneath her fingers. She wears a long beige silk dress, softly clinging to her figure, brushing the floor as she takes a step. A short white bob frames her face, her eyes hidden behind large dark glasses. In her right hand, she holds a cane, black with a silver tip, and in her left, a paper cup of hot coffee she picked up from the corner coffee shop. She pauses for a second, listening to the space. The hum of voices mingles with muted music, dishes clink somewhere, and the woman at reception is talking on the phone. Iris turns left, toward where the soft sofa usually stands next to large potted floor plants. Her cane sweeps in an arc before her, tapping on the marble floor, the sound echoing back to her, helping her discern where walls are, where open space is. Jin-ho exits the elevator with his assistant. He's wearing a perfectly tailored blue suit, a wrinkle-free white shirt, and his black hair neatly combed back. He's looking at his phone, reading a message. The driver is already waiting at the main entrance. The meeting is important, and he can't be late. He looks up for a second to assess the situation in the lobby and sees a woman with a cane, but she's standing quite far away, so he looks back down at the screen. They move along intersecting paths, she toward the sofa, he toward the exit. Iris's cane arcs to the left, and she shifts slightly to the right, avoiding an invisible obstacle. Jin-ho steps aside to get around a group of people carrying suitcases, and it is at that moment that they meet. Her shoulder crashes into his chest. Coffee spills from the cup, hot liquid spilling onto his hand, the cuff of his white shirt, and his blue jacket. Iris feels a sharp jolt and loses her balance for a second, but manages to grab his arm with her free hand. The glass falls to the floor and rolls, leaving a dark mark on the light marble. She freezes. Silence falls around her. It always does when something happens in a crowded place. At first, everyone falls silent, and then they start whispering. Iris hears the whispers, hears someone gasp, hears the footsteps of a staff member running up. "Oh no," she says quietly but firmly. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me." She's still holding his hand. Her fingers grip the fabric of his jacket above his elbow. She feels the expensive material, the warmth of his body through it. Her other hand still clutches the empty glass. Her cane is tucked under her arm. Jin-ho looks down at her. He sees her dark glasses, her white hair, her slender fingers clutching his sleeve. He sees her lower lip move as she speaks. The coffee is spilled. His hand stings from the heat. His suit is ruined. The meeting is in 10 minutes, but he remains silent. He simply looks at her, at the way she stands, her head slightly tilted, listening to his breathing, at the way the breeze from the air conditioner plays with a strand of hair near her cheek, at the way the silk of her dress shimmers in the light of the chandeliers. "Are you in pain?" she asks. Her voice is low, calm, and not panicked. He doesn't answer. He can't find the words. I don't see," she adds. "I didn't notice you. I really didn't mean to." A hotel employee runs up with napkins and starts blotting Jin-ho's jacket. Iris hears his footsteps, senses someone else has appeared nearby, and finally removes her hand. She stands straight, not slouching, not apologizing unnecessarily. She simply waits for this man to speak. Jin-ho looks at his chest. Where her palm had been, the fabric is slightly wrinkled. He runs his hand over it, smoothing it out. "Everything is fine," he says. The voice is low, slightly hoarse, calm. Iris holds her breath for a second. She hadn't expected that answer. People usually get angry, even if they know it's not her fault. "Your suit," she says. "I'll pay for cleaning. Let me know how much it costs." She takes a business card out of her small purse and holds it out into the empty air, slightly to the side of where he stands. Jin-ho takes the business card. He runs his finger over the embossing. It's just a name and phone number. No work or address. "No need," he replies. "They're just clothes." The hotel employee is still fussing around, suggesting they go to their room and change. Jin-ho ignores him. "Are you waiting for a taxi?" he asks. "Yes. I'll take you there." She takes a step back. "No need. I'll do it myself." He looks at the cane in her hand, at the way she turns her head slightly, trying to catch the sounds around her. "I insist," he says. Assistant Jin-ho, who had been standing to the side this whole time, steps forward. He's worked with his boss for 10 years and has never seen him behave like this. "Sir, the car is here. Meeting in—" "Let him wait," Jin-ho interrupts without turning around. Iris overheard this conversation. She realized this man was no ordinary hotel guest. The assistant's voice was tense, almost frightened. "My name is Jin Ho," he says. She is silent for a few seconds, considering whether to give her name. "Iris," she finally answers. He reaches out to touch her elbow, but stops at the last moment. "Can I take your arm?" She nods. He gently touches her elbow, just above her wrist. His fingers brush the silk of her dress, and he feels the warmth of her skin through the thin fabric. They walk toward the exit. Iris hears the conversations fade as they pass. People part for them. She senses it in the shift in the air currents. It smells like rain outside. The asphalt is wet. The sky is gray. She inhales the damp air, lifting her face to meet the fine droplets. "The taxi will be here soon," he says. She nods. He stands next to her and doesn't leave. He looks at her profile, at the way she lifts her chin slightly, at the mole under her cheekbone, at the way her eyelashes touch the lenses of her glasses. "Do you work here?" he asks. "No. I was waiting for a friend. She's late." He looks at his watch. His assistant fidgets 2 steps behind him. "I can give you a ride. My car is here." She shakes her head. "Thank you. I'll do it myself." A taxi pulls up. The tires crunch on the wet asphalt. The driver gets out and opens the back door. Jin Ho helps her in, holding the door open. His hand brushes her fingers as she gets in. A second too long. "All the best," she says. "All the best, Iris." The door closes. The car drives away. He stands in the light rain and watches it go until the red lights disappear around the corner. An assistant approaches with an umbrella and opens it over him. "Sir, your suit is ruined. You need to change before the meeting." Jin Ho is silent. Then he turns and looks at his assistant so hard that he freezes. "Find her," he says quietly. The assistant looks at him in confusion. "Sir? This woman, Iris. Find out who she is, where she lives, where she works. Everything." The assistant looked at him in surprise. He'd seen his boss with many women in 10 years, but he'd never seen him standing in the rain like this, watching a taxi with a stranger in it. "Sir, this will take time. We have a schedule. Find her," Jin Ho repeats calmly, but in a tone that makes the assistant stop mid-sentence. "And just watch. Don't do anything yet. Just watch." The assistant finds her on the 3rd day. It turns out it's not that difficult, because Iris works at the Philharmonic as a piano tuner, and information says there really is such a girl there, the only one with such an unusual name. He reports to Jin Ho in his office. It's evening outside. The city lights are lit. Jin Ho is sitting at the table, a cold cup of coffee in front of him, untouched. Her name is Iris, 27 years old. She works at the Philharmonic, tuning pianos. She lives alone in the old part of town. She has no parents. She lost her sight as a child due to an illness. She has few friends and leads a quiet life. Jin Ho listens in silence. Then he asks, "What else?" "Nothing else. Ordinary life. Work, home, the occasional walk in the park." Jin Ho gets up and goes to the window. "Keep watching." The assistant hesitates. "Sir, maybe I should just approach her. Get acquainted formally? Why all this surveillance?" Jin Ho turns around. "Do you doubt my orders?" "No, sir." "Then do as told." The assistant leaves. Jin Ho remains by the window. He looks out at the city lights and remembers how she touched his chest in the hall, how she calmly said, "I can't see," how she held herself, not slouching, not trying to appear pathetic. He doesn't know why he can't forget her, but he does know. Simply approaching her and introducing himself is wrong. He wants to get to know her first, to understand what she's like when she doesn't know she's being watched. Iris arrives at the Philharmonic early in the morning, when the building is still empty. She loves this time of day, the silence, the smell of old wood and dust, the soft echo of her own footsteps. Today she's working in the grand hall. The piano is out of tune after yesterday's concert and needs to be fixed by the evening. She sits down at the instrument, takes off her glasses, and runs her fingers over the keys. Her fingers remember each note, knowing where each note is without even looking. She begins tuning. First, she listens to each string, then adjusts the tuning pegs with a special key. The work requires complete silence and concentration. But today, something is getting in the way. She feels it on her skin, a sensation that someone is in the room. Not a sound, not a smell, not a movement of air, just a feeling. She freezes, listening. Silence. No breathing, no creaking of chairs, no steps. She shakes her head and continues working, but after a few minutes, she finds herself listening again. Her heart is beating a little faster than usual. She gets up from the piano, walks along the stage to the edge, and listens. Nothing. Is anyone there? She asks into the darkness of the room. The voice bounces off the empty chairs, returning as an echo. No one answers. She returns to the piano. She works until lunch, but the strange feeling lingers. Someone is watching. She knows it for sure. 2 days after work, she emerges from the service entrance. It's a warm evening outside, filled with the scent of blossoming trees from the nearby park. She pauses to take a cane from her bag, and at that moment, she smells it. Fresh, slightly sweet, with a hint of bitterness. Peonies. Someone hands her a bouquet. She hears the rustle of wrapping paper, feels the air move around her hand. "This is for you," says a male voice. She freezes. She recognizes that voice immediately. Low, with a slight rasp. The same one from the hotel lobby. "Why?" she asks, not taking the flowers. Just like that. She's silent. She reaches out and touches the buds. The petals are soft, cool. She brings the flowers to her face and inhales their scent. And through the scent of the peonies, she smells something else. The same cologne he smelled when they first met. Woody, with hints of citrus. "How do you know where I work?" she asks. Pause. "I found out. It's called surveillance. I wanted to apologize. For that incident." "What's there to apologize for?" "I spilled coffee on you. For not walking me home that time." The car was waiting. She didn't expect such an answer. She stands and holds peonies in her hands. "You're strange," she says finally. "Many people say so. And what do you need?" Silence. Then he says, "I don't know." This answer is more honest than she expected. "My name is Jin Ho," he reminds. "I remember. Can I walk you home?" She thinks for a few seconds. "No, not today." "And tomorrow?" She almost smiles. "Tomorrow I work until the evening. I'll come in." "To the Philharmonic?" "Yes. I'll buy a ticket to the concert. There's a boring program today." "I like boring music." She shakes her head, but a smile hides at the corners of her lips. "See you tomorrow, Jinho." "See you tomorrow, Iris." She leaves, clutching the peonies to her. He stands and watches her until she disappears around the corner. The next day, she arrives at work early to check the piano in the small hall. The peonies she planted yesterday are sitting in a jar of water in her small room at the Philharmonic. She approaches them several times throughout the day and inhales the scent, trying to understand what she's smelling. Later in the evening, she goes down to the box office. She knows he might come and wants to be sure there are no tickets left. "Tell me, are there any seats available today?" she asks the cashier. "To the evening concert?" The hall is full. Almost everything is sold out. There are a few left in the back rows. Iris nods. That's enough. If he comes and sits far away, she won't hear his breathing, won't feel his gaze. She goes back up to the hall and begins to prepare her instrument for the concert. That evening, when the first audience arrives, she's already sitting in her room. She hears footsteps in the hallway, the murmur of voices, the slamming of doors. The concert is about to begin. She doesn't come out until the very end. When the applause dies down and the audience begins to disperse, she gets ready to go home. She steps out into the hallway and freezes. He stands at the door to her room. She can hear his breathing, close by. "You didn't come in," she says. "I bought a ticket," he replies. "Front row." She frowns. "In the front row?" But the cashier said there were only the last ones left. Silence. Then he says, "I asked to move." "You can't do that. Those are foreign places. I made a deal." She understands. He's the kind of person who can negotiate anything. "Why are you here?" she asks bluntly. "I told you. I want to walk you home." "Just walk me out?" Pause. "Just to see you off." She is silent for a long time. Then she takes her cane and steps forward. "Okay, let's go." They leave the Philharmonic Hall just as the city lights are turning on. Iris hears the crunch of tires on the pavement, music playing somewhere from an open window, and the laughter of passers-by. He walks next to her, slightly to the side, without touching her. She feels his presence, hears his breathing, his steps. "Do you always walk so quietly?" she asks. "Trying." "Why?" "Habit." She doesn't ask what the habit is. Not yet. They walk through a small park. It's quieter here than outside. Only the birds and the rustling of leaves. Iris stops and looks up at the sky. "Are there stars there?" she asks. He looks up. "Yes, a little. Cloudy." "Tell us what they are like." He looks at her, then back at the sky. "One is bright, right above us. The rest are pale, hidden behind the clouds." She nods. "I love hearing how others describe the sky. Everyone sees it differently." He is silent. Then he says, "And how do you see it?" "I don't see. I feel. Darkness isn't black. It's just absence. Like closing your eyes and waiting for them to open. But they don't." He looks at her calm face, at her lips, which are slightly parted. "Are you scared?" he asks. "It was. In childhood. Then you get used to it. You can't get used to the darkness. You can. Darkness is just noise you can't hear. When you understand that, you stop being afraid." He wants to ask something else, but she suddenly turns to him. "Why are you silent?" "I think." "About what?" "That you're not like others." She smiles slightly. "This is bad?" "No, this is good." They walk further, all the way to her house. He stops at the entrance without going inside. "Good night, Iris." "Good night." She leaves. He stands and looks at the light in her windows. When the light comes on the third floor, he turns and walks into the darkness. 2 days later, he's waiting for her again after work. She's not surprised. It seems she's already gotten used to him appearing out of nowhere and walking her home. Today, they take a different route, through a large park with a pond. The evening is warm, smelling of water and grass. She hears ducks splashing somewhere, the wind rustling in the treetops. "Tell me about yourself," she asks. "I don't know anything." "What should I tell you?" "Who are you? What do you do?" Pause. "I have my own business. Several companies." "Which ones?" "Various. Construction, restaurants, hotels." "The hotel where we met? Yours?" "Yes." She nods. That explains why he spoke so calmly to the staff. "Are you rich?" "Enough." "And what should such a person do next to me?" He stops. She too freezes, sensing that he is not coming. "I don't know," he says honestly, "but I'm here." She turns to face him, the sunset sky reflected in her dark glasses. "You smell strange," she says suddenly. He doesn't understand. "How?" "Cologne. The same as the first time, but something else." She takes a step closer. She raises her hand without touching him, simply gliding her palm through the air near his chest. "Metal," she says. "Iron. And something else. Sharp." He freezes. "How do you know this smell?" "I know a lot of things by smell. It's part of my life." "So what is it?" He is silent for a long time. Then he says, "Tools. For work. You have strange instruments." "The work is varied." She doesn't press, but she remembers this conversation. She knows the smell of metal well. That's what weapons smell like. They sit down on a bench by the pond. Iris can hear the water splashing and a dog barking somewhere. He sits next to her, close, but not touching. "Are you hungry?" he asks suddenly. "A little." He takes out his phone and presses a button. A few minutes later, a car pulls up. An assistant gets out, carrying a small box. Jinho takes the box and opens it. Iris smells it. Sweet, unfamiliar, with notes of sesame and honey. "What is this?" she asks. "Dessert. It was delivered by plane this morning." She brings a piece to her mouth and tries it. The taste is unusual, unlike anything she's eaten before. "Where do they make these?" "Far away. This is my homeland." "Are you from there?" "A long time ago. Now I live here." She eats in silence. Then she says, "You didn't answer my question." "Which?" "About the smell of metal." I answered. "Tools." "You're lying." He is silent. "I can tell when someone's lying." She continues calmly. "My breathing changes. My heart beats differently." "You lied." He looks at her calm face, at the hands holding the napkin. "I'm sorry," he says. "For what?" "For lying." "Will you tell the truth?" "Not today." She nods. "Okay, sometime later." He is surprised. "You're not angry?" "No. Everyone has the right to remain silent. I just wanted you to know. I can smell lies." He looks at her for a long time. Then he says, "You are amazing." "I'm just blind." "It doesn't make me amazing. It just makes me listen more." The next morning, the assistant enters Jinho's office with a report. "Sir, I have been watching her for 3 days." "And what?" "Nothing. She goes to work, to the store, to the park. Sometimes she meets a friend at a cafe. She leads a normal life." Jinho nods. "But there is one strange thing," the assistant adds. "Which?" "She's too calm. For someone who's blind, she navigates perfectly, never makes mistakes. And also," "What?" "Sometimes she stops and looks straight in the direction where the observer is sitting. She doesn't see, of course, but it seems she senses it." Jinho is silent. "Sir, why are we following her? Maybe we should just get to know her?" "I've already met." The assistant is surprised. "And what?" "She asked why I smelled like metal." The assistant turns pale. "And what did you answer?" "He said it was tools." "Did she believe it?" "No." She said she felt it was a lie. The assistant is silent. Then he says, "Sir, it's dangerous. If she finds out, he won't recognize her. But if—" "Enough," Jinho interrupts. "Keep watching." On Saturday, he picks her up from home. They go to the park, the same one they were at last time. It's sunny, warm, and crowded. Iris hears children's voices, the music of street musicians, and the smell of cotton candy. They approach a crosswalk. The traffic light beeps, signaling passage. But Iris senses the traffic and noise, and suddenly takes his hand. Her fingers rest on his palm. Warm, dry, soft. He freezes. She squeezes his hand and says, "It's noisy here. It's quieter this way." They cross the road. She holds his hand, squeezing her fingers slightly. He feels her pulse beating in her wrist. On the other side, she doesn't let go of him right away. Her fingers slide over his palm, and then suddenly stop. "What is this?" she asks. She feels a callus, hard, round, on the inside of her palm, at the base of her thumb. "A callus," he replies. "I know. But from what?" He is silent. "If you write a lot with a pen, you get a callus on your middle finger," she says calmly. "And that's on your palm. It happens if you hold something heavy a lot, something with sharp edges, or if you hold the handle for too long." He looks at her fingers, still touching his palm, at her face, calm and attentive. "You know a lot," he says. "I listen a lot, and I touch." She removes her hand. "You don't want to answer. I understand." He takes her hand himself, squeezes it carefully. "I'll tell you someday." "When?" "When I understand that I can." She nods. "Okay, I'll wait." They walk on, holding hands, and for the first time in a long time, Jinho feels at peace. With her. With the woman who sees nothing, but sees more than others. He hasn't come for 3 days. On the first day, Iris doesn't pay any attention to it. She leaves work, listens to footsteps, to breathing, to the familiar scent of cologne, but feels nothing. Only the ordinary evening city, only strangers, only the wind. She shrugs and goes home alone. After all, he hadn't promised her anything. He simply showed up for days in a row, saw her out, said strange things, and then disappeared. He had his own life, his own business, his own affairs. She had no right to wait for him at the doors of the Philharmonic every evening. On the second day, she finds herself listening to every male voice in the crowd. At the store where she's buying groceries, a man says to the saleswoman, "Keep your change." And for a second, she catches her breath. His voice is low, husky, but it's not the same. Not the same at all. She's angry at herself for this reaction. She shouldn't react this way to a stranger who's simply showing his attention. On the third day, she can't take it anymore. Sitting in her small room at the Philharmonic, she takes out her phone. Her fingers fumble with the keys, and she types a message. "Are you okay?" Then she deletes it. Then she types again. "Will you be seeing me off today?" Then she deletes it again. Finally, she simply puts the phone aside and sits motionless, listening to the hum of the old refrigerator in the corner. That evening, she walks home alone. The park they used to walk through together smells of flowers. Now that scent seems foreign. She stops on the bench where they ate that sweet dessert and sits for a long time, simply listening to the silence. Somewhere a dog barks, somewhere a child cries, somewhere the crunch of tires on the asphalt, and not a single step she's waiting for. She returns home, closes the door, and leans her back against it. The apartment is dark, but that doesn't matter to her. It's always dark. Only today the darkness seems thicker, denser, heavier. She runs her hand along the wall, makes her way to the bed, and lies down without undressing. One thought swirls through her head. He's simply disappeared, as if he'd never been there. On the fourth day, she decides enough is enough. She goes to the park alone, deliberately chooses that very bench by the pond, sits down, and turns her face to the sun. Let it be warm. Let it be an ordinary day. She won't think about the man in the blue suit who, for some reason, was looking for her, giving her flowers, and keeping silent about the smell of metal. She sits for a long time, listening to the ducks, the wind, the occasional footsteps of passers-by. Some pass by quickly, some slowly, some stopping nearby to feed the birds. And suddenly, she hears footsteps that make her insides go cold. The footsteps were heavy, not the light, almost silent ones she was used to. They pressed against the gravel, approaching with purpose, without hesitation. Someone was walking straight toward her. Iris freezes. She doesn't turn around, but her whole body tenses. She listens to his breathing. Heavy, male, unfamiliar. Footsteps stop 2 meters to the right. The man stands there, silent. She waits a few seconds. Then she turns her head in that direction. Did you want something? She asks in an even voice. Silence. Then the man says, Sorry, I was mistaken. The voice is low, but alien, completely alien. She nods. Happens. The man stands there for another second, and then the footsteps begin to recede. Iris listens as they grow fainter, and only when they've completely disappeared does she allow herself to exhale. She stands up quickly. Too quickly. Her cane finds its way, and she practically runs toward the park exit. Her heart is pounding somewhere in her throat. She doesn't know who it was, but she knows for sure. That person was right. He came right to her, and he's not the one she was expecting. At home, she locks the door tightly. For the first time in a long time, she's afraid in her own apartment. On the 5th day, she's working in the Philharmonic's Grand Hall. The piano sounds clear today, and she has almost nothing else to do, but she still sits at the instrument, fingering the keys, just to keep her hands occupied. The door to the hall opens. She hears this sound immediately, and steps, light, almost silent, those very same ones. She freezes, not turning her head. The footsteps approach, pass through the entire hall, and stop at the stage. She is silent. He is silent. Then she says, without turning around, Are you okay? The voice sounds even, but inside everything is trembling. He doesn't answer right away. Then he climbs onto the stage and comes closer. She can hear his breathing behind her. Yes, he says quietly. Your hands are shaking, she says. He looks at his hands. Then he looks at her straight back, at her white hair, at her fingers frozen on the keys. Do you hear that? He asks. I hear a lot of things. For example, that you haven't been here for 3 days, and that you're scared now. He sits down next to her on the bench in front of the piano, very close. She can smell him, that same cologne, and something else underneath. Fatigue? Sweat? Something elusive. I couldn't come, he says. You don't have to. I wanted to, but he didn't come. He's silent. Then he takes her hand and places it on his chest. His heart beats quickly, unevenly. See? He says. I don't see. I feel. And what do you feel? She removes her hand. That you are in trouble. He looks at her for a long time. Then he says, Not in trouble, just complicated. You don't have to explain. I want. Then explain. He is silent, and she waits. There are people, he says finally, who wish me harm, and those close to me could also be in danger. She turns to him. Is that why you disappeared? Yes. Did you think I was safe without you around? Yes. She shakes her head. Stupid. Why? Because someone had already approached me in the park. Heavy footsteps. A strange voice. He said he was mistaken. Jinho freezes. She feels his body tense. When? Yesterday. Did he do something? I just stood and watched. Jinho stands up. She hears him pacing back and forth on stage. I should have been there, he says angrily. At himself. You wanted to protect me by leaving. I was wrong. Happens. He stops in front of her. Are you scared? It was. Yesterday. Not now. Why? Because you are here. He looks at her, and for the first time in days, he allows himself to breathe. They're sitting in her small room at the Philharmonic, and the evening outside gradually fades into night. She's in her usual chair near the table, where the piano keys always lie. He's on the windowsill, leaning his shoulder against the frame. They don't turn on the light. She doesn't need it. But right now, he wants to sit in the semi-darkness, looking at her profile, at her white hair, which seems to glow in the darkness. After she mentioned the man in the park, the heavy footsteps, and the strange voice, a heavy silence fell over the room. Jinho doesn't move, just sits and looks at her, and she feels his gaze on her skin, in every cell of her body. She's long since gotten used to being looked at, but his gaze is different, not heavy, not judgmental, not pitying, simply attentive, as if he's trying to memorize every feature of her face. I don't want to know who you are, she says suddenly, and her voice sounds unexpectedly loud in the silence of the room. He raises his head and looks at her more closely. What? I don't want to know what you really do, she repeats slowly, as if tasting each word. Who are these people who wish you harm? Where does that metallic smell on your clothes come from? I don't need to know any of that. He remains silent, waiting for more to happen, because he feels that this is not all. But I want you to understand something. She turns to him, and he sees how tense her shoulders are, how her fingers grip the arms of her chair. I can sense a lie. I don't know how to explain it, but when someone lies, their breathing changes, their heart beats differently, even the air around them becomes different. I don't know why, I've just always felt it. He wants to say something, but she raises her hand, stopping him. Let me finish. If you're in danger, if something happens that could affect me, don't lie. Just tell me straight. I can handle any truth. The only thing I can't handle is a lie. Jinho looks at her, and for the first time in a long time, doesn't know what to say. He's used to lying, used to holding back, used to people either being afraid of him or wanting something from him. But this woman, sitting across from him in a dimly lit room, sees nothing, yet sees right through him, and asks him only one thing: not to lie. Won't you be scared? He asks quietly. Nah, if you find out who I really am? I already told you, I don't want to know who you are, she answers calmly. I just want to know when I should be afraid. Those are two different things. He gets up from the windowsill, comes closer, and squats down right in front of her, so that his face is level with her knees. She feels his closeness, the warmth of his body, the scent of his cologne mixed with something elusive that only he possesses. Aren't you afraid of me now? He asks, looking up at her face. No. Why? Because you're here, with me. You speak softly, breathe evenly. Look at me as if I were the most precious thing you've ever seen. Why should I be afraid of someone who looks at me like that? He freezes. She can't see his gaze, but she feels it. It's impossible, but she feels it. How do you know how I look at you? He asks in a whisper. I don't know. I just feel it. He reaches out and gently touches her fingers, which are still clutching the armrest. She doesn't pull away. Instead, she relaxes slightly, allowing him to take her hand in his. I'm not lying to you, he says quietly. I haven't lied once since we met. You didn't tell the whole story. This is different. This is protection. Mine or yours? He thinks for a few seconds. Probably mine. I'm afraid that if you find out everything at once, you'll leave. What if I find out gradually? Then maybe you'll stay? She smiles barely noticeably, only with the corners of her lips. You're smart. You consider your options. Habit. It's a bad habit. You don't calculate people. You sense people. He squeezes her hand tighter. Teach me. What? Feel. I only know how to count. She is silent for a long time, then frees her hand and places her palm on his chest, where his heart beats. Close your eyes, she says. He closes. What do you feel? Your hand. Warm. And what else? The heart is beating. Whose? My. What does it say? He is silent, listening to himself. What I'm afraid of. What? That you will remove your hand. She doesn't clean up. She sits like that for a long time, listening to his breathing, his heart, his silence. I won't clean it up, she says finally, until you ask me to. He opens his eyes and looks at her face in the dim light, at the dark glasses that obscure her eyes, at her lips slightly parted, and he realizes that for the first time in his life, he doesn't need to control anything. He can simply sit and feel. The next day he comes again, and she hears him even before he knocks. Just footsteps in the hallway, light, almost silent, but she already knows them, distinguishes them among the hundreds of other sounds in the old Philharmonic building. She smiles when the door opens and turns to greet him. He holds a small box in his hands, wrapped in thick paper. He holds it out, and Iris's fingers find the gift almost immediately, as if she'd been waiting for this very moment. What's in there? She asks, running her hands over the packaging. Open up, he says quietly, sitting down opposite. She unfolds the paper slowly, unhurriedly, savoring the process. Beneath the paper is a smooth cardboard box. She opens the lid and reaches inside. Her fingers touch soft leather, a thin strap, and nearby are small metal bells, cool and smooth. She runs her finger over them, and they ring softly, melodiously. What is it? She asks, although she already guesses. A bracelet, Jinho answers, with bells. She takes it out of the box, holds it in her palm, and listens to the bells jingle with every movement. The sound is high, clear, not harsh, but soft, almost gentle. Why? She asks. So you'll always know when I'm near, he says. So you won't have to wait for footsteps or listen for breathing. You'll just hear the ringing and know I'm here. She's silent for a long moment, running her fingers over the strap, the bells, the clasp. It's an expensive item. You can tell by the quality of the leather, by the smooth finish of the metal edges. Are you afraid I'll come looking for you? She asks finally. No. I'm afraid you won't know where I am, and you'll get scared. She raises her head and turns to face him. Put it on, she says, holding out her hand. He takes the bracelet, and she feels his fingers touch her wrist. Carefully, almost weightlessly, he fastens the strap, and the bells immediately respond with a soft jingle. Now you will always hear me, he says. She nods and listens to the ringing. She moves her hand slightly to the left, slightly to the right, and the bells sing a new song each time. It's beautiful, she says. You are beautiful, he replies. She doesn't know what to say to this, so she just remains silent and listens to the ringing of the bracelet. That night, she wakes to a sound. Not loud, no. Something barely perceptible, something out of place in the usual symphony of the apartment at night. Iris lies motionless, listening. The refrigerator hums steadily, as always. Outside, the tires of the occasional car rustle. Somewhere upstairs, a neighbor's bed creaks. And suddenly, she hears a ringing sound, quiet, barely audible, yet painfully familiar. A bracelet, her bell bracelet, which she left on the nightstand so it wouldn't disturb her sleep. Someone picked it up. Her heart skips a beat, then picks up speed, beating quickly and loudly. She lies motionless, listening to the darkness. She breathes quietly, trying not to give herself away. The ringing repeats. Now it's closer. Someone is fingering the bells, and suddenly she understands. That ringing. She heard it that day, when Jinho put the bracelet on her wrist. It's the same sound, the same movement, and the footsteps she hears now. Light, almost silent, she also recognizes. She sits up on the bed. Jinho? She says into the darkness, her voice surprised but not fearful. Silence. Then footsteps approach, and a familiar voice answers. I didn't want to wake you up. She exhales, pressing her hand to her chest, feeling her heart pounding. How did you get in? She asks. The door was open. I haven't. I always close it. Silence. Then he says quietly, I have a key. She freezes. Where? He asked me to do it. The day I left. I was afraid for you. I wanted to be able to get in if something happened. Iris sits on the bed, wrapped in a blanket, unsure what to feel. Anger? Surprise? Gratitude? Everything is mixed up inside. You didn't ask if it was possible, she says finally. No? Sorry. Why are you here? He's silent for a long time. Then she hears footsteps. He comes closer, sits on the edge of the bed. The mattress springs creak softly. I couldn't sleep, he says. I was thinking about you, about that man in the park. I decided to check. At 3 o'clock in the morning? Yes. She shakes her head. You're crazy. Maybe. Silence hangs between them. She hears his breathing, smells him. He sits next to her, on her bed, in the darkness, and says nothing. Lie down, she says suddenly. What? Go to bed. If you came, go to bed. The sofa in the living room is small and uncomfortable. You won't fit there. He doesn't move. Are you serious? I never joke at night. He's silent for another second, then gets up. She hears him walk around the bed, take off his jacket, and hear the rustle of his trousers. He lies down next to her, on top of the blanket, at the very edge. Thank you, he says quietly. Sleep. She closes her eyes, listens to his breathing, listens to how he carefully turns over, trying not to make any noise, and falls asleep. She wakes up because something has changed in the room. Not a sound, not a smell, just a different air. She listens. Jinho is awake. She can hear his breathing. Too fast for sleep, too uneven. He lies next to her, staring at the ceiling. Are you awake? She asks quietly. No. What time is it? 4:30. She turns on her side, facing him. Why are you here, Jinho? Not today. Ever. Why are you following me around, giving me flowers, bracelets, coming to someone else's apartment at night? He is silent for a long time. So long that she thinks he won't answer. He says finally. His voice is quiet, tired. When I'm with you, I stop thinking. I stop being afraid. You don't see me for who I am. You feel something else. What do I feel? I don't know. But it's not fear. You're not afraid of me. But everyone around you is. Always. Since childhood. She runs her hand over the blanket, finds his palm, and places hers on top. What are you afraid of? She asks. What will you find out? And you will leave. Are you afraid that I will leave? Yes. She squeezes his hand. Stupid. I'm blind. I don't know how to leave those who are dear to me. I can only stay. He turns to her. She feels his breath on her face. Very close. You are dear to me, he says. Very. I know. Where? I told you. I feel it. She removes her hand and touches his face. Her fingers glide across his forehead, his eyebrows, his cheekbones, his lips. He freezes, holding his breath. "What a face you have," she whispers. "I want to remember it." "You don't see." "I see with my hands." She runs her fingers over his face, studying every feature. Sharp cheekbones, a straight nose, lips thin but soft. His eyes are closed. She can feel it in the way they tense under his fingers. "You are beautiful," she says. "You can't know." "I can. Beauty is felt, just like a lie." He opens his eyes and looks at her in the darkness. She doesn't see his gaze, but she feels it on her face. "I've never met anyone like you," he says. "I've never met anyone like you either." She removes her hands and lies back down on the pillow. "Sleep. I'll make coffee in the morning." He lies down next to her, cautiously, afraid to touch her. But a minute later, his hand finds hers under the blanket and squeezes it. In the morning, she wakes up first. The sun is already high. She can feel it in the warmth that penetrates the room through the thin curtains. He lies next to her, breathing evenly and deeply, asleep. She carefully climbs out of bed, trying not to make any noise. She feels for her robe on the back of a chair, throws it over her shoulders, and goes into the kitchen. Everything is familiar there, everything in its place. She finds coffee, water, a Turkish coffee pot. She does everything slowly, habitually, listening to the silence of the apartment and the breathing of the man through the wall. When the coffee is ready, she hears footsteps. He comes out and stops at the kitchen door. "You're early," he says in a sleepy voice. "Habit." She hands him the cup. He takes it, and their fingers touch. "Sit down," she says. "We'll have breakfast." He sits down at the small kitchen table and watches her move around, taking out bread, butter, and cheese. She does everything confidently, never making a mistake, never touching anything out of place. "It's like you can see," he says quietly. "I remember. It's not the same." "Maybe." She sits down opposite him and pours herself coffee. She drinks it in silence. He looks at her, at the white hair that has fallen over her face, at the slender fingers gripping the cup, at the bracelet with bells on her wrist. "Thank you," he says. "For what?" "For letting me in. For the coffee. For the morning." She smiles slightly. "You should be grateful that you didn't kick me out at night." "Special thanks for that." She laughs quietly, covering her mouth with her hand. "You rarely laugh," he remarks. "I rarely do anything at all. I live a quiet life. And with me? With you, everything is different." He reaches across the table and takes her hand. "I'm glad I met you." She remains silent, but does not remove her hand. 2 days later, he picks her up after work, but he's not alone. He's with his assistant, the same one she briefly heard in the hotel lobby on the day of their first meeting. Jinho helps her into the car, and she senses someone else is there. The breath is foreign, the gaze heavy. "This is my assistant," says Jinho. "He'll help you with your things." "Hello," Iris says into the void. The assistant is silent. Then he blurts out, "Hello." The voice is tense and unfriendly. They drive to her house. The car is silent, save for the sound of the engine and the breathing of 3 people. Iris feels the assistant constantly watching her. His gaze isn't malicious, but it's strange, searching, as if he's seeing her for the first time and doesn't understand what's in front of him. They go up to the apartment. The assistant is carrying some bags. She hears him put them down on the hallway floor. "Thank you," she says. "You're welcome," the assistant replies and falls silent again. She feels his gaze on her. She stands and stares for a long time. Then she turns and leaves, without even saying goodbye. Jinho closes the door behind him. "What's wrong with him?" Iris asks. "Don't pay attention." He looked at me strangely. "He's just surprised." "What?" Jinho comes closer. "Because I'm next to you." "Why does this surprise him?" Silence. "Because he's known me for many years, and he's never seen me like this." "Which one?" Calm. She nods, but a bitter taste remains inside. She won't forget the assistant's strange look. That evening, she stays at her place. Jinho lingers in the kitchen, answering calls. She hears his quiet voice through the wall, short phrases in an unfamiliar language. She goes into the hallway to get something from her bag and stumbles upon his jacket hanging over the back of a chair. She reaches out to remove it and accidentally catches his pocket. Something heavy falls out of the pocket and hits the floor with a dull thud. Iris freezes. She knows that sound. Metal. Heavy. The object fell to the floor and stayed there. She stands motionless, listening to the silence. Jinho is still talking on the phone in the kitchen, not hearing. She doesn't bend over, doesn't reach out to pick it up. He just stands there and looks down at where the fallen thing is lying on the floor. And he waits. A minute later, the call ends. She hears Jinho's footsteps. He comes out of the kitchen and goes into the hallway. Stops. He sees her. He sees an object on the floor. Silence. You didn't pick it up, he says quietly. No? Why? Because I know what it is. He is silent. Is that a gun? She asks calmly. Her voice is even, without a tremor. He doesn't answer. He just stands and looks at her. Jinho, is this a gun? Yes, he says quietly. She nods. She stands and nods, as if she had been expecting this answer. Are you angry? He asks. No. Are you afraid? No. Then why didn't you pick it up? Because it's yours, not mine. You have to decide for yourself what to do with me now that I know. He comes closer, bends down, and picks the gun up from the floor. She hears the metal slide across his palm. The click of the safety. You wanted me to say it myself, he says. Yes. I'm telling you. It's a gun. I carry it with me. For what? For protection? Mine or yours? Both. She is silent. Then she turns to him. You promised not to lie. I'm not lying. Then tell me the main thing. He looks at her. Are you the kind of person you need to defend yourself against with a weapon? Or are you the one doing the defending? He thinks for a few seconds. Second, do you promise? I promise. She reaches out, finds his palm, and squeezes it. Okay, then put this away and go drink coffee. They're sitting in the kitchen. The coffee is cold, but no one's drinking. Jinho looks at his hands lying on the table, while Iris sits across from him, listening to the silence. You didn't ask me where I got it from, he says finally. I didn't ask. Why? Because it doesn't matter. What matters is who you aim it at. He raises his head and looks at her. I would never point it at someone I care about, he says quietly but firmly. She is silent. She just sits and listens to his breathing. Do you believe me? He asks. I believe. Why? Because you wouldn't have come home at night with a key if you wanted to hurt me. You wouldn't have given me flowers and bracelets. You wouldn't be sitting here now and looking at me like I'm the only thing you have. He reaches across the table and touches her cheek. He runs his fingers over her cheekbone, over her lips. You're the only thing I have, he says. She places her hand on top of his. Then stay. Jinho picks her up from the Philharmonic at 7 sharp, as agreed. She hears the sound of his car before he even gets out, recognizing the soft hum of the engine that has become familiar to her. He opens the door, takes her hand, and helps her into the seat, the bells on her wrist jingling, softly with each movement. You look beautiful today, he says, getting behind the wheel. I'm always the same, she replies, but there's a smile in her voice. No, it's different today. My hair hangs differently. Did you notice? I notice everything when it comes to you. She doesn't know what to say, so she just stays silent and listens to the city outside the window, the evening traffic, the occasional honk of horns, the voices of people on the sidewalks. She feels the car turn, slow down, then pick up speed again. Where are we going? She asks. To one place. It's quiet there and smells delicious. Do you know that smell is the most important thing for me? I know. That's why I chose this place myself. I asked her to describe the smell over the phone. She turns her head in his direction in surprise. Did you really call and ask? Yes. He said that for a blind girl, smell is more important than the interior. She's silent for a few seconds, processing this information. She finds it strange and pleasant that he thinks about such things. People usually don't even think about what she goes through every day. The car stops. He gets out, opens her door, and offers her his hand. She steps onto the sidewalk and immediately smells the scents. Herbs, some flowers, fresh bread, and something else spicy and delicious that immediately makes her hungry. Is this a restaurant? She asks. Yes. Small, in the yard. Summer veranda. They walk through the courtyard. She can hear the crunch of gravel underfoot, the trickle of water somewhere, probably a small fountain. Jinho leads her carefully, holding her elbow, but not intrusively, allowing her to experience the space herself. They are seated at a table in the corner. She runs her hand over the tablecloth, the rim of her plate, the cool glass of her wine glass. It's quiet around them. The other diners speak in hushed tones. The music plays faintly. Do you like it here? He asks. Yes. It's quiet here. The waiter comes over and places a menu on the table. Jinho takes it, but Iris shakes her head. No need. Just bring whatever smells best. The waiter is silent, not understanding. She can't see, Jinho explains quietly. Just bring your signature dish. She'll choose it with her nose. The waiter leaves. Jinho looks at her from across the table, at the white hair falling over her cheek, at the dark glasses obscuring her eyes, at the slender fingers stroking the edge of the tablecloth. What are you thinking about? She asks, feeling his gaze. About how people look at you. And how? With interest. With surprise. Some with pity. And you? I admire it. She smiles with the corners of her lips. You are too kind to me. I'm not kind. I'm honest. The food arrives. Iris inhales the aroma, and her stomach lurches with pleasure. Herbs, spices, meat, something sweet and caramel-like. She picks up a fork, carefully probes a piece, and tastes it. It's incredible, she says. I knew you'd like it. They eat in silence. Or rather, she eats, and he simply watches. He watches the way she closes her eyes, trying out a new flavor, the way she licks her lips, the way she smiles to herself. Aren't you eating? She asks. I'm looking at you. It tastes better. She shakes her head but doesn't argue. They're already finishing dinner when something changes. Iris senses it immediately, from the way Jinho tensed up next to her, from the change in his breathing, from the sudden silence of the voices around him. She freezes, fork in hand, listening. Conversations at neighboring tables didn't just die down. They broke off mid-sentence. Someone choked. Someone coughed. Someone else suddenly fell silent. A heavy, almost palpable silence hung over the veranda. Jinho? She asks quietly. Don't move, he replies just as quietly. Sit still. She hears footsteps. Several couples. Heavy, confident, they approach their table. A dropped fork clanked somewhere off to the side, and someone stood up and quickly left. Good evening, says a male voice. Low, calm, but with a hint of steel in it. Good morning, Jinho replies. His voice is even, but Iris can hear the tension in it. I didn't expect to see you here, especially in such company. Iris feels all eyes on her now. She sits still, her hands on the table, trying to breathe evenly. We're having dinner, Jinho says. If you don't mind. A pause. Heavy, long. No objections, the voice replies. Enjoy your meal. The footsteps fade away. Silence hangs for a few more seconds, then the conversation resumes, but more quietly, more cautiously. Jinho exhales. She hears it, too loud to be simple relief. Who was that? She asks. Doesn't matter. You've gone pale, I can tell by your voice. I didn't turn pale. Don't lie. I asked you to. He's silent. Then he covers her hand with his. These are people I do business with. They weren't expecting to see me here. They looked at me. Yes. Why? Because they're not used to seeing me with anyone. Especially not with a woman. She nods. She removes her hand, picks up a glass of water, and drinks slowly, giving herself time to calm down. We have to go, he says. We didn't finish eating. It's time for us to go. He calls the waiter, pays, and stands up. He helps her up. She feels his fingers grip her elbow tighter than usual. He leads her not toward the main exit, but in the other direction. She hears the surface beneath her feet change. First tile, then gravel, then tile again. A door slams somewhere, and there's the smell of kitchen, food, and trash cans. Where are we? She asks. Back door? Why? It's safer this way. She doesn't argue. She simply follows him, trusting him completely. The bracelet on her wrist jingles softly with every step. They come out into an alley. It smells of dampness and cats. Jinho leads her quickly, almost running, and she trips, but he catches her, supports her, and keeps her from falling. I'm sorry, he says. I was too fast. It's okay. I can handle it. They go outside, and she hears the familiar noise of the city. Jinho stops, catching his breath. She stands next to him, listening to his heartbeat. Too fast. Oh, are you afraid? She asks. For you? I'm here. I'm fine. He turns to her, takes her face in his hands. His fingers are warm, trembling slightly. I will not allow anyone to touch you. Ever. She places her hands on top of his. I know. The car is waiting for them around the corner. He gets her in, takes the wheel himself, and they drive away. He's silent the entire way, and she doesn't break the silence. She just listens to his breathing and silently counts the minutes. They're sitting at her house. It's late, quiet outside, only the occasional car passing beneath. Jinho is on the couch. She's next to him, her legs tucked under her, covered with a blanket. You wanted to ask me something, she says. In the car. I felt it. He looks at her. You always feel everything. This is my job. I wanted to ask, do you dream? She is surprised by the question. I see. Which? Ordinary, like everyone else. But you don't see anything in reality. What about in your dreams? She remains silent for a long time, choosing her words carefully. In my dreams, I see. Strange, huh? I wake up and remember colors, shapes, faces. He looks at her carefully. What colors do you see? Everyone. Sometimes my dreams are colorful, sometimes they aren't. Like everyone else. Did you dream about me? She smiles slightly. I dreamed about it. What was I like? In a blue suit. The very same one we met in. He freezes. You haven't seen my suit. I know. But in the dream it was blue. Bright blue, like the ocean in the sun. He looks at her and doesn't believe her. How did you find out? I don't know. I just dreamed it. Maybe I sense color the same way I sense lies. He takes her hand, brings it to his lips, and kisses her fingers. You are unusual. You already said so. I'll repeat it. She smiles and leans her head back on the sofa. Tell me what the sunset was like today. He looks out the window. Orange and pink. The clouds are long, like feathers. Beautiful. Very. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for listening. They pull up to her house late at night. The car stops, and Jinho turns off the engine. Silence falls over them. Only the wind rustling through the treetops. I'll take you there, he says. No need. I'll do it myself. I'll take you there. They get out of the car. He takes her arm, and they walk toward the entrance. The night is warm, and the scent of flowers from the front garden fills the air. She feels it first. A strange presence. Breathing. Someone is standing at the entrance, waiting. Jinho, she whispers. I see. He stops, moves slightly, blocking her view with his body. Go upstairs, he says quietly. Alone. Don't turn around. Just go. But, Iris, please, do as I ask. She hears something in his voice she hasn't heard before. Fear. Not for himself, but for her. She nods, squeezes his hand for a second, and walks toward the entrance. Her cane taps the asphalt. She unlocks the door with her key, steps inside, and only then hears footsteps behind her. Someone else's footsteps are approaching Jinho. She walks up the stairs, slowly, counting the steps, as she taught herself many years ago. First flight, second, third. The railing is cold under her fingers. A voice comes from below. Male, unfamiliar. Then Jinho's voice, quiet, calm. She can't make out the words. Then the blow. A dull, heavy sound that makes everything inside you break off. She freezes on the stairs, clutching the railing. Her heart is pounding somewhere in her throat. She grips the wooden railing so tightly that her fingers begin to ache. There is silence below. No footsteps, no voices. Nothing. She stands and listens. A second, 2, 3. Then footsteps. Light, quick. Someone is running away. And more steps. Heavy, slow. Towards the entrance. She doesn't know whose, but she remembers what he asked. Don't turn around. Go. She moves on. 4th floor. 5th. Her door. Her hands shake as she inserts the key into the lock. She steps inside, closes the door, clicks the lock, and waits. She sits on the floor in the hallway, her back pressed against the door, counting the minutes. 1, 2, 5, 10. Silence. She listens to every sound, to the footsteps on the stairs, to the elevator, to the voices. But it's quiet there. The bracelet on her wrist is silent. She touches the bells with her fingers, but they don't jingle. They just hang quietly. 15 minutes, 20. She takes out her phone and presses the speed dial button. The call rings. Long, endless. No one picks up. She dials again. Again, there are beeps. My heart is pounding somewhere in my ears. My head is empty. Only fear, cold and sticky, crawls down my spine. 25 minutes. She sits motionless, afraid to take another breath, just listening, waiting. The click in the lock sounds so unexpectedly that her whole body shudders. The key turns on that side. Her key, the one that only she and he have. The door opens. She hears breathing. Heavy, hoarse, familiar. She doesn't move. She sits on the floor, her back pressed against the wall, and doesn't move. Iris, he says quietly. The voice is tired and sick. She's silent. She just sits and listens as he enters, closes the door, clicks the lock. As he takes a step, then a second, a third. As he stops right in front of her. You're sitting on the floor, he says. You didn't pick up the phone. The phone is broken. Are you okay? Silence. Jinho, are you okay? No. She hears him walking toward the bathroom. His steps are uncertain and stumbling. He leans his hand against the wall, and she hears his palm sliding across the wallpaper. The bathroom door opens. The light turns on. She notices it by the change in sound, though to her it's just the hum of the lamp. She gets up from the floor. Her legs are numb, but she follows the sound. To the bathroom. He stands by the sink, looking into the mirror. She hears the water running, his heavy breathing. Jinho! She calls. Don't come in! She comes in. She reaches out and feels his shoulder. His jacket is off, his shirt is damp. She moves her hand higher, toward his face, and her fingers touch something wet and warm. Blood. You're hurt, she says calmly. Nonsense. Don't lie. Let me see. You don't see. I see with my hands. She runs her fingers over his face. She finds a cut eyebrow, a split lip, a cut on his cheekbone. Blood flows, warm and sticky. Turn towards the light, she commands. He obeys. She probes the wounds, carefully, trying not to hurt him. Then she turns away, feels for a towel, and hands it to him. Press it to your eyebrow. Hard. He takes the towel and presses it. He remains silent. She stands next to him, listens to his breathing, listens to the water dripping from the tap. Who was that? She asks. Doesn't matter. It's important to me. He is silent for a long time. Then he says, people I do business with, they wanted to remind me who I am. And who are you? A bad person, for many. She shakes her head. You're not bad. How do you know? You're here, with me. You're bleeding, but you came here, not to the doctor, not to your people, to me. He looks at her in the mirror, at her calm face, at her hands still touching his shoulder, at the bracelet with bells, quietly jingling with every movement. Aren't you afraid? He asks. No. Aren't you afraid of blood? I've never seen blood. I only feel it. It's no scarier than the darkness. They're sitting in the kitchen. She's bandaged his eyebrow and wiped the blood from his face with a damp towel. He's sitting across from her, looking at her. Why don't you run? He asks quietly. Where? From me. You saw what was happening. The people waiting for me at the entrance. The blood, the gun. Why are you sitting here and warming me tea? She places a cup in front of him and sits down opposite him. I love you, she says simply. I guess. He freezes. He looks at her in disbelief. What? I love you. I didn't know it before, but now, as I sat on the floor and waited, I understood. I love you, and I won't run away. He is silent for a long time. Then, he reaches across the table and takes her hands in his. I don't deserve it. It's not up to you to decide. I'm dangerous. I'm blind. I have nothing to lose but you. He squeezes her fingers. I won't let anyone hurt you. I know. I will kill anyone who comes near. No need. Just be there. In the morning, she wakes up to find him awake. He's sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at her. You weren't sleeping? She asks. No. Why? Thought. About what? About us. About how to protect you. She sits down and straightens her hair. And what did you decide? You have to move. She freezes. Where? To another apartment. Mine. It's safer there. This is my home. They found you here. That man in the park. The people at the entrance. They know this address. She is silent, digesting. The new apartment has good soundproofing, he continues, and more light. There are big windows. You'll feel the sun. She smiles slightly. Are you thinking about light for me? I'm thinking about you. She sighs. I will think. This is not an offer. It is a request. I know. She agrees 3 days later. Jinho comes to pick her up and helps her pack her things. They aren't many. She's always lived modestly, disliking excess. Before leaving, she stops at the door. Jinho. Yes? I will move on one condition. Any. You will not hide the truth from me. Never. Whatever it may be. He looks at her. Even if the truth hurts? Especially if it hurts. I want to know who I'm with. The real one. He nods. I promise. Say it out loud. I promise not to lie to you. Ever. She holds out her hand. He takes it, and they walk out. She crosses the threshold of her new apartment, and the first thing she notices is the air. Clean, light, smelling of wood and freshness. Somewhere a window is open, a breeze gently rustling the curtains, and she hears the sound. It's bright here, Jinho says. The sun is hitting the floor now. Tell. A large room. White walls, lots of wood. A sofa by the window. A piano in the corner. A piano? I thought you might want to work. I'll bring your tools. She is silent, trying to imagine. Can I come through? Everywhere. She takes a step, then another. The bracelet jingles softly. She goes to the window, feels the warmth of the sun on her face, on her hands. It's nice here, she says. You don't regret it? No. The door clicks behind her. The lock closes. She pauses for a second, listening to herself. Before, this sound, the closing door, had always frightened her. It meant she was alone, locked in, cut off from the world. It sounds different now. She turns to Jinho, takes a step towards him, towards the sound of his breathing. I'm home, she says. Are you home? He hugs her, and the bells on her hand jingle quietly and joyfully.